Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning, happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat.
And we're joined by Celine Thompson from the Bridge Youth and Family Services. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
So we're going to talk about some of the rhetoric around homelessness that has come out during this campaign, because this issue is quite clearly the #1 issue.
Seems to be.
So you signed on to a letter along with 11 other social agencies that seem to express a real angst about some of the things that are being said. Mm-hmm. There's misconceptions that are being spread. So tell me about that. What is it about this discussion that's off-putting for you and the other groups?
I think there's a number of things. I think we were hearing from some of the electorate in Kelowna being extraordinarily afraid, suggesting that the people that are homeless don't require support or services and should just leave town. And politicians have to side with the electorate, so that was a little concerning. We heard a couple of the candidates speak from the platform, although acknowledging support for the Journey Home strategy. We're suggesting solutions that aren't based in evidence and weren't based in the strategy. So it was alarming to us.
Right, so let's dig into those misconceptions a little more. What are some of the things that people, when they see this problem, that they're getting wrong?
I think one of the alarming comments was about the deserving and undeserving poor, that some of these people deserve our support and some of them don't.
This is one of the things when I was interviewing the candidates, and I did get empathy from, I think, each and every one of them. But the part where I sometimes found myself shifting back in my seat was when people would take this continuum of people and kind of cut it off here, that these are the ones we should care about. And then there's these others that are the criminal ones or something, and they are not worthy of any concern, or what?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing as well. It's quite shocking. The Journey Home strategy focuses actually on the most vulnerable as the people that will be housed first. So those people that we might find the most offensive, or those ones that act out the most, or the ones that are harder to house, are actually the priority for the strategy. So when we hear people, the deserving and undeserving, it's not consistent with the evidence and it's not consistent with the way forward.
Right. So there are even people on that whole continuum that are probably involved in petty crime. The idea is house them too.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe eventually help them if you can.
Right. And again, Housing First tells us that if you have people housed first, their ability to seek out their own safety and security increases exponentially. They will be more law-abiding if they have a roof over their head. They will be able to feed their children if they have a roof over their head. They will be able to participate in community services if they have a roof over their head. The undeserving doesn't really factor into the equation at all.
Right. I take it the idea is get everybody housed. I'm sure there's some people that you may never be able to shake their addiction or may never stop their criminal behavior, but there's a chance if there's a roof over their head.
Absolutely, and the evidence bears that out. If you have a roof, you will seek out supports. You will try to keep yourself safe and secure.
Right. So we've heard some suggestions coming out as the campaign's unfolded about, you know, moving them right out of town and that sort of thing. That you would think that's not what the Journey Home.
No. At its basic tenet, it's about integration into the broader community fabric. At its most core, it's having everybody have a house. Right. And that means that our neighbors may not look like us, sound like us, act like us, but that's okay. That it contributes to a diverse fabric that'll actually make Kelowna quite strong.
I have some concern as to whether or not even the housing projects that are already underway, they're kind of away from the downtown core, and I'm wondering how many people will actually accept that housing, and how many will be drawn right back into the downtown where they will just curl up in an entranceway to somebody's business again?
The ones that I'm aware of are all in the transit system, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable about that. The primary focus for the housing out of the gate is supported housing. So that means we're going to have staff in the complexes 24/7. So there'll always be somebody there to support them, help them with the transportation, help them with education, help them be good tenants and good neighbors.
But you're not concerned that the housing is too far from the city core that it will really work?
Not at all.
It's okay?
Yeah, it's fun.
What I find this letter, this open letter that you and the other organizations wrote, it seems to have an overall tone that's a bit negative about this whole discussion. And I find that disappointing, because I would have thought that all of this discussion, this is all energy towards an issue that clearly matters to you. So isn't there a positive there?
I think there is. I think in some respects we're vigorously agreeing. I think there is incredible momentum happening right now. What we were afraid of, I think, is that we've seen a plan developed by Kelowna and be lost in a municipal election before. We don't want this plan to suffer that same fate.
Right. But isn't the fact that practically every candidate has something to say about it, whether you agree with what they're saying or not, doesn't that give you more hope that this time that somebody's going to get out their checkbook and we're going to follow through?
I hope so. I think that the dialogue can be healthy, but it can also create fear. And with fear, sometimes that's where the votes follow. And if a candidate wants to lean into the fear, we could suffer the same fate and not have a plan realized.
Right.
So I think that was the underlying concern. I agree that there's momentum and dialogue happening. I think regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, the solution is staring us right in the face. We can be compassionate, we can be fiscally conservative, we can save money in the long run, we can protect the businesses as long as the plan is realized.
Right. One of the points made, and I guess I'm convinced that it's true, is that if you just leave a population of people unhoused, the ultimate cost that we pay is probably more than the cost of putting a roof over their head and trying to help them solve their problems.
There was a brilliant study done in 2012 called The Cost of Homelessness by the Canadian Observatory on Homelessness, and it tracked the results of 4 cities that pursued a plan. The dollar for saving was 2 to 1. So what you were saving in emergency costs, psychiatric visits, police, and bylaw, for every dollar invested, you realized $1 in return. It's quite remarkable.
Right. As I was kind of mining for the sources of some of the negative comments you've heard before this interview, it gets to some of the comments that get attached to, say, an interview, right? People comment online, and you know, I generally just try to avoid looking at those because some of them are just so nasty. But you've obviously spent some time looking at some of those. Is that what you?
I don't look anymore. It's too disheartening.
But people will say things like, "Let them die."
Yes. Yeah.
You've seen that.
I have seen it, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Let them die? That's not what Kelowna is about. This is not my city.
Yeah. But I guess while everybody's talking about it, that I say is so good, you know, you're not going to get the right.
Well, my concern is those are voters. And so if you're a politician and you're looking at this pragmatically, is that where you steer your leadership of this town? I hope not.
Right. But I guess one other, and I think you've alluded to it already, but one other thing that is good about all this is that for those out there that for whatever reason can't find empathy anymore, maybe, you know, they've been personally affected by it in such a way that they're angry about it.
Right.
And they've got a bit of a wall up. But they want the homelessness problem served, and so do the people that are just overflowing with empathy and seeing every one of them. That could be my kid.
That's right.
So really, we're all on the same team.
We are. We are. This is a pragmatic solution to a compassionate issue. Absolutely.
Right.
I just need people to stay the course now, just a little bit longer. We've got shovels in the ground. Things are starting to happen. Places are being built. We have this incredible alignment of 3 levels of government, providing we keep a plan.
Right. So, going forward, as this discussion keeps going on, what should people avoid getting into in these discussions that starts to re-engender these misconceptions? What are the pitfalls of this?
I think we need to just continue to focus on solutions and allow the experts to help us along the way. So make sure that those solutions are based in evidence, that they're based in the best practice. We have multiple cities across Canada that have done this and done this really well. So there's ample research available. We've got the solutions sitting there waiting for us, ready to go.
Right. One more thing I want to cycle back to, because I heard you doing an interview with another media person, and I found it a little bit off-putting at one point, where you seem to be making the point that business people who are expressing concerns about this issue are doing so out of the fear of the other, and that all they're doing is displaying a lack of understanding of these people. But as I was hearing you say that, I'm going, no, I think regardless of their feelings, they're worried about whether or not the loss of business associated with it is going to lead them not to be able to pay their lease. And that's their fear.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a pragmatic concern at work there with these business people that doesn't really have much to do with how much empathy they're feeling that day. So is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think I would still challenge them, though, to get to know the other. I think I would still challenge them, though, to look at this as an issue of humanity and not just business. I certainly understand the requirement to do business, absolutely. But I would also challenge them, where's their solution in this?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind. I know that here at our current location, Kelowna Now, we all have experience, you know, interacting with them. And sometimes it's a very empathetic interaction.
And quite humbling.
Sometimes it's not always good. There's all sorts of drama out here, you know, in this part of town. But anyway, I really appreciate some of your points, and let's hope we come through this election process further ahead.
Fingers crossed.
Terrific. Thanks for coming in, Cylin Thompson, from The Bridge Youth and Family Services, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.